This is the Don't Black Dad podcast. My name is Marvin Harrison.
Woo woo.
It's always a pause. Like, we got to work with production.
Can we add those? You know,
We'll just add an applause.
Yeah.
There's no need to fake it. There's 4 people in here, 5 people. We all did it together. Then it would just happen, wouldn't it? Thank you so much for joining us today. I'm joined by Ramanta Bota and Darwood Grace. I called you Darwood Grave last week.
Yeah.
Yeah.
That was quite heavy, wasn't it? That's a horrible thing to say.
It was.
I didn't even really apologize. Yeah, I know.
And then you told me it was a great MC name, so I was like, okay.
It is a great MC name. If you had bars and like a mask.
I do have bars! Stop it!
So what happened is, and the reason why we've had to edit the podcast down just a little bit because that was yelling, is because I keep erasing his talents here in my introductions. Yeah. But it's not intentional. It's not.
I'm a human being.
It is not.
I
Funny.
exist. Darwood's life matter. Oh, that's too funny.
Darwood lives matter.
Yeah.
Okay. I'm also here joined today by frankly Boateng and Ryan Calais.
One of the
Cameron.
most stylish people on the
I
planet.
love the purple.
Yeah. How are you, man?
Easily.
I'm well. And
Do
yourself?
people know that you're Ghanaian?
Yeah, they should.
Yeah, it's
Because it's a
obvious.
brand, isn't it?
Nah,
It's a brand.
You're so chilled.
Yeah, they should know.
Are you saying Ghanaians ain't chilled?
No,
Racism,
Ghanaians are
yeah.
chilled. Your people, Nigerians, are not chilled.
Wow.
I'm not gonna
Everywhere
deny
you
it.
go, you're like the China of Africa. It's just everywhere.
You know what?
Ryan?
I'm not sure I have seen a Ghanaian woman on the phone on a bus screaming.
Yeah, that's a Nigerian thing.
It's definitely, it's everywhere else in Africa.
Yeah,
Yeah.
because Ghanaian women have
Ghanaian,
secrets.
well, I think they're kind of
Yeah,
a
just-
bit more.
Yeah.
I had that little slide.
Exactly.
Yeah, but you know what? You Ghanaians, you're really kind to Nigerians.
Yeah.
And
But-
we're even kinder to you guys.
No, yeah.
that's not-
100%.
Whoa.
We've named the bag after you.
but you know
We
why they named the
donate,
bag?
we donate all our men
But
to
you know
your
why
women.
they named the bag, right?
Like, we're doing all right.
But you know the reason. But you know the reason why they named the bag.
Accept, innit? Accept.
We can
Ryan's
discuss that
just
off.
laughing.
No,
But you know the reason why the bag was
discourse.
named that way.
Yeah.
So,
No, because it's
you weren't
diaspora.
kind in the beginning.
And I don't know.
I don't wanna be involved.
This is like an
Past
African
that.
thing.
You've got a
We
bag
don't know
named
what it
after you. Do you know how many
For
things
a-
get named in history
for a bad
and
reason.
from a horrible story?
Yeah. Yes, it was.
So they
Okay,
kicked you out of
thank
the
you.
country. You tried to leave in bags, and then they named the bags
They named
after
it
you.
So we have to
He's
be grateful.
mocking.
So we have to be grateful.
He's mocking the forced migration of Ghanaians.
Uh-huh. And we have to be grateful for the bag.
Wow. And the fact that he's met the men date your women. See
We
him?
donate our men to your women.
Hey.
My son's Ghanaian.
Okay.
How
For
funny.
real?
Really? I didn't know
100%.
that. Okay, that's good.
He's pretending to be interested in the fact
No, I didn't know that.
that you're having sexual relationships with these women. And he doesn't care. Like, he's like,
For some reason, Ghanaian women like Nigerian guys.
All right.
anyway, so Ryan, hi.
Hey,
I'm going to assume you're Caribbean because your last name is Cameron. The slaves didn't give your name back,
No,
so
they did not. Here we are.
ta-da!
Wow.
Harrison. Right. So how are you doing, man? What's going on?
I'm all right, man. It's a good day.
We met before. We had a conversation with Richard Blackwood. And by the way, Richard Blackwood is like a royalty in blackness.
Yeah.
I always give him a shout out. I feel like there was like 7 famous black people in the 90s and he was probably top 3.
He had his own
100%.
show.
Yeah.
Yeah.
He had his own
Yeah,
show.
in a race
the
time.
I know.
100%.
Just a little
It's
closer.
him, Ian Wright, Trevor McDonald,
Yeah.
Andy Peters, Desmond.
Can we throw Lenny in there?
We have to
Lenny
throw Lenny.
Henry.
in. Yeah, we have to throw Lenny.
I've
in.
had a massive tribute to Lenny Henry on Jeremy Vine yesterday because I was like, apparently he's stepping down from comic relief.
Yes.
To give raid to new people,
I'll
which
support
basically
you,
means
yes.
Mo the comedian. But like, I'm so over the moon of his contributions to all of us. And anyone that watched his sketch show in the 90s, Lenny Henry, was brilliant.
He had this show with Vas Blackwood.
Yeah, oh my gosh.
Yes, yeah.
And his
I
captain
remember
was
that.
Winston.
Yeah. I remember that.
And
I
he was
remember
a pirate show DJ.
Yeah.
I can't remember
Vas
any
Blackwood
plot
is
stories.
also a legend.
That guy is a
In,
phenomenal
he was in
actor.
Lockstock, right?
He was in Lockstock,
Yeah.
but
Love Lockstock.
I had him in It's a Lot.
Okay.
Yeah, you know when someone steps in the room and their acting ability just takes it up a level.
Yeah.
So I watched all the other actors just take a cue from him, and he basically what we had written was the scene this way. By the time we watched this first rehearsal, we just moved it over. Let's do it your way.
Yeah.
Like he turned it into something else. He's a phenomenal actor.
Yeah.
Phenomenal actor.
And frankly, thank you so much for joining us. So you are like king of trainers, king of swag. You bullied JD Sports into changing their name.
No.
And you're like so popular online. So by the way, I had no idea about any of this. You were just a really nice guy in the group. And I was just like, this guy's so nice.
See, I only know you because of A-side.
Oh, okay,
And
got you.
that whole connection.
Oh, okay,
so
got you,
when
got you.
they were telling me who the other players were, like, your name just kept coming up.
I
So you're a
appreciate
cultural. How do you explain what you do?
I don't know. Recently, someone called me Mr. X, so it's
Wow.
really hard for me to define in words. It's more actions.
Yeah.
Like, you know, helping relaunch Averex and having queues down the street and having the store and putting it back into the culture.
Oh,
and
that
stuff.
explains.
Yeah.
Gosh.
So
Yeah.
it's just it's a lot of just putting pieces of the puzzle together and showing it physically.
So we know about Averex obviously being the like visual representation of wealth as under 21 in the 90s. How people acquired that wealth is irrelevant. It's not really a part of the brand.
Their
No.
is it?
jackets were £450.
Listen,
£500, yeah.
that was a
In the
month's
90s.
salary
Yeah.
at Woolworths.
Yeah.
I don't
Yeah,
know
it was-
what the hell people were doing to get
Yeah.
one of those things, but I definitely couldn't afford one.
I had 2 Averexes, and one of them
Yeah.
was brought, and then the second one,
Was taken?
no, was my older brother's one.
Oh, okay.
But it was an A2, so that one was actually made
Yeah,
in the
for the
40s.
pilot, yeah.
Like, for the pilots.
Oh, really?
Yeah, and I've still got
So-
that one.
yeah,
Did you
it's
guys
probably a
not
replica.
aged.
Find, yeah, I was just about to
It's good,
say
a replica.
replicas or
No,
like,
so Averex is actually Averex started off as a replica World War II company.
Yeah.
And it's going to be their 50th anniversary next year. And yeah, we have found some old ones. So like people know it from Top Gun. So the original Top Gun, that's an
Wow.
Averex jacket, and they make the pilot jackets for the US Army as well.
I didn't know.
So,
I just thought it
yeah.
was just roadmen looking
No,
amazing.
No.
It's basically what happened is they went into sports, and
Yeah.
that's when they started
Yeah.
doing sports.
It was
jackets.
college, yeah. So college
College
football.
Yeah.
So
and
is
then-
there a
then
relationship
varsities.
between Averex and like in 112's music video when they all had the bicycles? Is that
No, that's not Averex.
But is there a
that is
connection to that time? Like
Yes,
were they
100%.
competing? What was the name
Yeah,
of that brand? I
100%.
can't remember. It's
Yeah.
with an A. Is it
No, Alpha
academics.
Industries.
Is it academics?
No.
Alpha
Before
Industries. No. I know what you're talking about.
Yeah,
I know
yeah,
you're talking about. Yeah. Alpha, not Alpha. It was one of them.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So what is the goal
Alpha,
for?
it is. Alpha
Is it
Industries.
Alpha?
It could be Alpha.
Alpha
Yeah.
Industries,
Could be
yes, it
Alpha
is because they used to have the
Alpha
other
Industries,
jackets.
yeah.
So what's the goal for Averex now? Because obviously it just means a lot, but
It
I
means a
suppose
lot.
re-establishing meaning now
Yeah,
is
well,
different.
they relaunched. 2022. I helped them with the store and trying to give them more cultural relevance. It's their 50th anniversary next year, so just try to more of the same things, like putting it in the right places, on the right people and stuff, and like kind of letting people know that we're actually 50 years old. I mean, I bought my first Averex in 28 years ago.
Yeah.
So that shows my age. Yeah.
Yeah.
So to let people know that it's come back around, from the times in the 90s and things like that. You know what I mean? So
You know what I think kind of hurt Averex a little bit when guys were wearing like the huge ones.
Yeah.
So it was coming down to
The
their
5XLs.
knees. Yeah, the 5XLs.
But that was just American influence, period.
Yeah,
that just
yeah.
ruined. That whole time was horrific. There will never be a time when you can look back and be like, that was lit, It would never happen again. 4 5X tops and white tees.
You know who's still
with no
got his
structure.
one? Big Ted.
yeah. He's doing. Oh, he's
No, he's slimmed
Yeah, he's
down
slimmed
so
down, yeah,
much,
he's got
but
the-
he's still got the
huge one.
huge jacket.
Yeah.
Because we had a discuss last year. I swear you was there.
Where was it?
I can't remember where we were. We was all just talking, and he just brought up the Averex jacket and how he still got his old one.
Okay.
It might have been
I
that one
been
at
there.
Emil's screenings.
Oh, okay. I
Yeah.
might not have been in that conversation, but I was definitely there. Yeah.
Dope. So what we'll talk about in this session is we have playwright Ryan Cameron here who wrote for black boys who have considered suicide when the hue gets too heavy.
Yes.
My guy, that title is very long. Why all those words in that title? Because as a broadcaster,
Yeah,
my
it's
mouth
a lot,
is
right?
la la la. For black boys, you.
For Black Boys, for sure. I read Enter Saki Shange's seminal work for Coloured Girls.
Sick, by the way.
Maybe about 10, 12 years ago now, man. As a drama student, I was going through plays that were written by black people, for black people. And I read for Coloured Girls, and I remember just being with it for about a week. Just going, my days, I didn't know that we were allowed to express ourselves this way, right? And then after that, I went and did research. Like, when you watch a good film, when you read a good book, you're like, I need to know how this was made and how it impacted. And, that was a play that came out in New York in the 1970s. And just seeing how it influenced black women and artists in general over that time. And I was like, seeing the way that it made people feel. Imagine if we had something like that here that could articulate our experience and then specifically at that time, I'm watching a lot of any black play was American, you know, August Wilson kind of stuff that came over here, and I saw myself trying to relate, but going, actually, the Black British experience is so nuanced. It doesn't particularly speak about.
translate in the
Do you know
same
what I
way.
mean?
Yeah.
To me, living in South. And then from that point on, I was like, we need something. And I let it go because I was like, look, man, this is an incredible piece of work. I don't even want to try and even do nothing. Do you know what I mean? And then 2013, Trayvon Martin passed. And I remember hearing a lot of discourse in public about like, oh yeah, but he had a hood on. And I was like, what does that mean? Because I'm a black boy in a hood. Do you know what I mean? So that mean that, do you know what I mean? I was like, raw, like now more than ever, I need to be able to articulate what it really means to be a young black man in this country. And then years passed again. No, I wrote half of it. So the first half of the play I wrote, and then I put it down because it just felt unfinished. Like there was too many unanswered questions. And I came back to it 6 years later as a father, as a married man, as somebody that owned a business. And I was like, raw. All of the things that I couldn't answer before, all of the frustrations I had as a young man trying to piece this together came from a lack of love or understanding what love is or understanding how to love and how different that could be if somebody could actually see me as a human being. And I was like, boom, that's the beginning of my second act. It speaks to the first act in that way. And then I put it down again. I was like, this is too much, too much. And then the pandemic happened. And that was the last piece I needed. It was like, look at the mental health of my brothers, and this is the thing that I couldn't understand at the time, right? You look at somebody when you're growing up and you're going, he's just that brother's just a bit this or he's a bit that, he's just a grumpy guy, and you're like, whoa, 20 years later, I can actually see that looks like that's anxiety or depression, or actually this is, why does he always go this way after smoking weed? Okay, this might be a psychosis. Do you know what I mean? And I was like, okay, now I can finish this piece. So it's a piece that's taken 12 years to put together, you know, about coming of age stories of 6 young black men who meet in group therapy. Yeah.
It's really powerful because I think I've seen it, and I remember just being moved. And for 2 days, it's interesting because there's a couple of things. There was like when I left outside in the foyer.
Yeah.
There was specifically women.
Yeah.
Who just had no idea. That men experience things in this way.
Yeah.
And I wonder if it's our own fault that we've done a massive disservice to ourselves in pretending that all of this stuff is easy and benefits us and that we just coast through. Yeah. Because sometimes when I listen to women, like I can see how I agree with everything they're saying. I'm like, I can see that. But no one ever asks why. Why are you that person? And it wasn't until I sat down with like a black superhero roadman that I grew up near. And we did a podcast together. Yeah. And he spoke about his childhood, spoke about his home, he spoke about his brothers and the legacy of having older brothers who were outside doing a lot and what he had to become to do that. And he was just blasé just saying it, but he was saying it in his way. But like, I was like, I never really thought about why you were this way. Yeah. Like, why did you become so? Because you're also like a really nice guy, great at football, but you're also like, if you're not in a good day, it's the longest place to be is anywhere near you. And all those things were true. And I think we just robbed so much of ourselves from the conversation. 100%. Like building capacity. 100%. Like, what do you hope to achieve when people leave? Like, what would you like for it to be understood?
Humanity. Do you know what I mean? That's what you're talking about here. We're not afforded humanity. We're not allowed to be 3-4 dimensional. You know, we're not allowed to be. So it's like, even if we're talking about narratives, and one of the main reasons why I needed to put it together is because I wanted to have some control over our narrative. Right? It's like, cool. Yeah, that brother might be in a gang or whatever, but how did he get there? What is his backstory? And not, do you know what I mean? He didn't just come out of the womb and was like, boom, 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 let me shut it up. Do you know what I mean? There were certain events that happened in this man's life that made him go down this road, right? And I'm not against all the stuff that's out there, but I'm like, give us some nuance and some context. And I think for me, at the end of it, I want young black brothers to understand that you are more than what they say you are or what you've told yourself. You are fully formed and fully human. And for anybody else that's outside of our community to be able to understand us a little bit better and to be able to go, we are fully real human beings. Do you know what I mean? That should be afforded all of the, you know what I mean? The pros and cons of life.
Just to speak to what you just said, I was with you when we watched the play the first time in the West End. And I remember women specifically speaking in the foyer. It's like, there's so many nuances. I have to go home and I have to like sit with what they are. But like I never knew that most of these things men go through. Exactly. And then they kind of like huddled they kind of like huddled around you and some other guy you were talking to, trying to get perspective what the men are thinking about the play.
I checked out, by the way.
And this also adds to the other night we were watching The Kitchen. And the women in the space, so we have movie clubs, and then the women in the space were so incredibly frustrated at the lack of words between the men in the movie, and we were like, we wanted more, we needed more, and that child deserved more, and we were really frustrated, but the men in the room were like, we get it. There was a look in his eye, and there was a nod, and there was a and I think it's the distance between not having the words, but having all of the experiences, and then having the people that live with you, right next to you, living life parallel with you, whether it's your family, your partner, your children, they don't know that
100%.
Because there's a wall between you two. And I think that was very obvious in the play, that you wanted to say, look at the color spectrum of who we are.
Exactly.
Which we, I'm not speaking for women, but the women in the room would have loved to see that verbally. And so I think that's what it brings and what it brought for me, because it made me understand a little bit more, have empathy, have understanding, but also if this cup looks like it's cold, until you tell me this is super hot, I'm just gonna be like, oh, it's a
But then
cold
where does
coffee.
that young man where does that man in general get that language, right? If he's not afforded that, you have to learn that from somewhere. And I hope that's what, for me, like leaving that auditorium, that we gain new understanding and language to be able to go. I did an interview last year, and I was like, the first time I ever spoke about love with another man was age 25. And like, we could talk about girls, do you know what I mean? But it would be like, oh, that girl, da. It was in a certain way where we could objectify a woman, because it meant that I didn't have to have any feelings for her, because if I had feelings, then I'm weak and I'm not a man. And being a man and a big black man is everything, right? Because that's what they tell you, right? So that's everything. And the first time someone ever said, "How are you feeling?" I was 25. Not how you doing, what are you saying, bro? But how are you feeling? And I remember I couldn't answer it. I was like, because I don't have the language to articulate how do I feel. I just move. Even now, like some of the conversations with my wife, but like she'll say something, and I'll be like, cool. Where do we need to go? How do we need to sort it out? I don't have the intellect. I don't have the language to be able to go, okay, all she wants me to do is sit down and listen. But I'm like, no, I'm a man, and I've got to always solution based, right? So, now I'm trying to learn from writing this, because this is my therapy, going, okay, cool, I can't write all of this massive text and not actually be a part of the process. Do you know what I mean?
Franklin, when was the first time that you evolved beyond just doing? Because I think errors matter, by the way. I think if you're like 30 and under right now, there's way more dialogue for experience 100%. And for just whoever you are. It's like, yeah, that's cool, man. Like, I remember seeing like men with handbags like 4 years ago in a club. And I realized how heavily programmed I am. Like, they were genuine, just women's handbags, but they were sick. But I was like, what's going on? Like, it wasn't a rejection. It was like, no, but how did we get here? Where was the breadcrumbs? It wasn't like it went man bags, which were holding things. Then we went into full-on handbags. How did we get here? And I feel like every 5 years, there's a cultural jump. And I feel like the closer you are to 50 and beyond, the less of those tools you just have. Like, my brother is like mid-40s. And his way of dealing with things is so powerfully simple, because there was no space for big concepts when he was coming up. It was just like, I say yes, no, come close, go away. Like, it's just simple as that. He doesn't have the nuance of like, well, actually today I'd like you to be close to me, but tomorrow I feel like I would like you over there because I think you're doing too much. Like, he's just like, I deleted all my apps. I was like, what do you mean? He's like, I saw 3 articles, it sounded stupid, I'm deleting all my apps. I'll check them out in 3 months' time to see if the news is better. That's where his head's at now. When did you first come into like emotional intelligence?
Oh God.
How old are you, by the way? Because you're youthful young, bro.
How do you think I am?
No, I'm going to permanently say that you look about 42, between 38 and 42.
I appreciate that. Thank you. I'm going to be 45. I'm 44 at the moment, So
beautiful man. There's a good-looking black man on this thing.
Could have said he was 29.
Hey, come and take a picture after.
I'm saying.
Thank you so much.
Yeah.
We need the female vote. How else to get the female vote but for dark-skinned men? It works. It's the truth.
It's because you yelled it.
Yeah.
Sometimes I have to have a direct message.
I thought that. Yeah, sorry.
No, it's fine. It's fine. I don't even know. You know, I'll be honest. I would like to think probably when I turned around 30. I don't know. I don't even know if I'm still there. I think after my dad passed,
How long ago was that?
2021 September.
I
Yeah. I don't know if I don't know. I'll be honest. I'm still in that process of like, gotta get things. I don't, you know. Yeah. Now I've had my son. I tried to. It's funny because I think my dad said "I love you" once in his whole life, right? And I think that's when I graduated. Something like that. Yeah.
Did
But
he display it to you?
yeah.
Though? Did he display?
He did, and that's the thing.
Yeah.
And I realized even with me in relationships, people say, Frank, you don't say I love you much. And I said, do you feel it? And I don't think that's the right answer sometimes.
Yeah.
But they do feel it. But what I do for my son especially is
How old is your son?
He's 9. I tell him I love him, even to the point where he's now like, ooh, you know those, you know when they get to that age,
He's getting
you know,
it. My son's 8. He's getting it.
so you get to that age where they don't want to say, you know, and I say, so I'm on the phone to him and I'm like, I love you. And he doesn't even reply because, you know, but I want to install it so much in him that he doesn't have the complex that I have. And to just, you know what I'm saying? So I'll be honest, the truth of it is I don't know.
Do you hug him
Yeah.
and kisses?
Yes, indeed. Indeed. And he hates it.
No.
Yeah.
It doesn't matter.
It doesn't,
It's not optional.
That's it. 100%.
100%. When they get older,
they're going to thank you.
100%.
100%. I know. Because my mum is, on the other hand, she did all the things, the hugging and all that. But my dad, he was proper hardcore Ghanaian, and I don't blame him at all. I don't blame him at all because when they came to this country, they were in survival mode in a way that people can't even put words.
Yeah.
Do you see what I'm trying to say? So for me, I don't blame him. He did what he had to do.
Yeah.
And it's just the way it is.
From your perspective, what did you lose out on? Like as a result of like that emotional development not necessarily happening until you're 30 or even really still figuring it out now, what's the loss? Because people don't understand what the loss is.
Do you know what? The loss for me, it's hard to kind of put it in words if I'm honest. I don't feel that I've lost much in terms of a detachment or, you know, I don't think I've lost much, but I feel that it's made me a bit cold, if that makes any sense. Like where I can just, and I think, I'll be honest, I think it's more the fact I grew up in a time like, you know, where I grew up in Tottenham. I lost a lot of my best friend got murdered when I was 15, and a lot of, you know, everyone knows the story about Tottenham. I grew up in that period. It just made me a bit like cold and he's
So you
passed
lost
and-
warmth.
Yeah, a little bit. If I'm honest, yeah, I did.
I think people don't understand what that then means when they're like you're put into a family situation, or you're meant to have like depth of affinity with your partner. Like it really struggles to open up. Like I can't believe that I was so open for information, but I didn't have a clue until I was probably 5 years into my relationship that included a marriage. So I was like halfway into it, and I was like, I'm discovering it now. I think I've done this the wrong way.
Yeah.
And I was so ready from young to find out any bit of information that will help that become more successful.
Yeah.
At the time of, you know, getting into that relationship, getting married, I thought I had it all. I remember sitting there thinking like, well, I've got all the tools. I've got all the perspectives I need. Then you press go. It's almost like a factory line. Like you build this factory and you're like, oh, this is going to make the most perfect car at the end. And you press go and then like the door falls off, the paint's the wrong, like it just things start breaking. And you're like, right, I can't even drive this. And you have to go back to the beginning and start again. Like what were some of the moments where you were just like, I think the question is like, something isn't right here. Like, did you have that moment where something isn't right here around your 30s?
Yeah, you know, it's really because like I think with me because I work so hard. I'll be honest. I think it's a trauma. I don't get time to sit down and actually think about myself. I'm always thinking about what's the next thing, what's the next thing, and what's the next thing. And I think that in itself is bad. But then I tell you what. So sometimes society doesn't let black men cry.
Mm.
Do you get what I mean? So
Almost
when
all the time.
yeah, so when and it's funny, I was leaving a comment on sorry I was leaving a comment on oh my god, I'm gonna forget her name. I don't want to forget her name. Social commentator, female.
Kalechi.
No, not Kalechi.
Zizi
Mills. Sorry, Zizi.
yes.
Sorry if you're watching this.
That's Zizi.
Yeah. So, and she said something about men being vulnerable, etc., on her page, and I put a comment saying, like, but will women respect a man if he cried? Do you get what I mean? And then she said she would if it was like if he just didn't, to allow him to be emotionally, vulnerable. But then I think one of our other friends, he came in and said, no, you shouldn't cry in front of women. What's the point unless someone dies? But then we're kind of vilified in some respect. Like when Tyrese went through a clear mental breakdown.
That was
clear,
a very real reference.
a clear mental breakdown in public. That has become like a meme that people just mock and so sometimes that as black men we're guarded so that we don't get to that position.
I think black male vulnerability just is a weakness. Like it's not a weakness, but it is when you start taking it out. It's not even that it's seen as, because it then directly changes how the reality that you have. Like we know that it's important for us to cry. And actually I've had many men cry in my space or on the phone to me and be like, this is just hard. But I know that if we were doing this in a public forum, there'll be an element of respect. But I know there's a deep down, there's a thing that's like, I could take him or he can't tell me nothing.
But this is the thing. This is the thing. I done Russell's podcast, and I was talking about my dad's passing, and I cried on that podcast. First time I've ever done it. Cried on that podcast.
Is this knee? You mean? Knee.
Yeah. And
her name was Russell as well.
Yeah, Russell. Yeah.
I'm making the adjustment.
Yeah. So when I cried on his podcast, we were talking about loss of all our dads. All our dads passed, and Mikey and was on there, and we all cried on that podcast. And people came to me, like people I don't know, they came to me and they said, I saw you on that. And it was the most powerful thing I've ever seen in my life. And they hugged me. And I was like, wow, this is the first time I've experienced this where I've expressed vulnerability in public and people actually don't, look at you.
Yeah.
You know what I mean?
The times are changing.
And that was a good thing.
I wanted to say what I specifically saw in that play, and something that's not necessarily a reality for most men, is the friends comforting one another when they did have the vulnerabilities. So I was wondering how you wanted to touch on spaces for men. Marvin has spaces where men can just be safe and be vulnerable in them. But it's not everywhere, right? And like you say, it's like a ha, look at him, he's a punk, or he's a, Where are these spaces where men can be vulnerable?
Well, I think that's the kind of discourse that I want from this play, is that we need them, and I feel like in the context of my play, it's a group therapy, but what I want from it is to go, no, I know you and I know you. We should be each other's keeper, man. Do you know what I mean? And that it should be everywhere. And I think what we're talking about is crying being a weakness. I actually see it as a strength. Do you know what I mean? If I see you crying in front of me, I go, right, you're a fool. You're a real man. Do you know what I mean? Like, to be able to, that takes a lot of courage and a lot of strength to be able to go, this is how I'm feeling right now. Do you know what I mean? I'm still me. Whereas I know that a lot of these younger guys who are bottled up and they can't, I can see the weakness, man. I can see it.
Because that is actually real weakness.
Exactly.
When you're so afraid of what people are going to say
Exactly.
about you. You are you can't express how you truly feel.
Exactly.
Knowing that how you truly feel, if it's let out, you will feel better immediately.
Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah, and it's a trick that all kids learn, but somehow men are told, stop using this tool that will better you because everyone will see you as weak.
But do you know what? To be honest, I see more harmfulness in white men. Like because they really don't have any outlet. It's such a weird thing. Like I actually know men who speak to each other, like black men. We come together and we'll be like, "Bro, this is mad." Because I think the intensity of our experience is so hard. You have to have an outlet. You've got to be honest. Like, and there are a group of men who just definitely do not. But all the black men I know speak. And then when I do this work in white spaces, they're like, even the successful men are like, wow, I've never heard this in my life. Like they got nothing, and so to them, there's like a quiet, consistent of just holding it in.
100%.
You think it's because we're in survivor mode and we're aware that we're in survivor mode?
We have no other choice.
Yeah.
Like
I agree.
I feel like in whiteness, there's like a level of success that the world pretends that you have.
Yeah, 100%.
Where you think you have it.
Yeah,
So what am I got to complain about? But then you hear these men, like you hear these hardback men, these working class men who be like their dad died and they're trying to keep it together.
Yeah.
And you can see them breaking, but they're fighting themselves. Like, I just let it happen.
Yeah.
And so there is, maybe that goes across race, but I specifically know white men of all intersections don't
and
have
generations
that
as
space.
well. I think
Yeah.
as well. I think something that you can do now. Do you know what I mean? You can talk to your. But at school, when I was at school, there weren't no forum where we could come together and be like, "Yeah, I'm feeling like this today, bro." What? Do you know what I mean?
yeah,
It was,
yeah,
do you
yeah.
know what I mean? Like now I can do that.
weakness straight away, yeah,
And even
unfortunately.
something you were saying as well, like even now, like, as a father and as a married man, I think that's allowed me to really tap into vulnerability because, as a man, I always had a space to be able to go into and duck and hide. When you're married with someone and you share a house and you share a family and you share a bed, do you know what I mean? There's no way. So I had to go, okay, cool. I'm going to have to find a way or a language to be able to be open with you. Otherwise, this ain't going to work, So, I think in maturity, there are more spaces for us now, man.
Yeah.
I gotta say
what's
on the crying thing, because we've all got sons and whatnot, and teaching them how to cry.
Yeah.
As society starts telling them you shouldn't be crying, because
Yeah.
I allow my sons to cry. I've never said stop crying, blah blah blah, because I think that sends a message. Even with my 4-year-old, when he sits with me and he's crying, I'm like, you feel sad? All right, cool. Do you want to speak about why you're feeling sad?
Yeah.
And whatnot? Okay, well, we'll let it go. Let it keep coming out until you feel better, and I'll just sit with
That's
him
good.
and that. But it's more what I want to say to men is learn how to cry like a man, and that, so that you don't cry with your head down like that. You cry with your head up, because it's
What
your chin's up.
what difference do you think that fundamentally makes?
Basically, it takes you away from the trauma that you suffered when you was because people like to hide their tears and whatnot. Whereas if you cry upwardly, there's still a sense of pride in you crying. So you're not having to face the issues of worrying about what people are thinking about you, because you've got your own pride, and take pride in your crying. Like, I'm letting this out. This will be better for everybody around me if I let this emotion go.
I think just processing that in real time, is sometimes just being able to momentarily collapse. And I'm thinking about this in real time.
Yeah.
And just because I think sometimes the fear is that if men all cry, who's gonna do stuff or something? Like, who's gonna do the stuff? Yeah. So like,
Women cry all the time and we still get stuff done. You know what
Yeah.
I
So it's
mean?
like I feel like the fear is when you hear
That
red
hasn't
pill
translated
men.
to men.
I know.
No, but when you hear red pill men talking about what you're crying for, you got to do. It's like, well, I can take 5 minutes out crying and go still do. What do you think I do? Like, go
100%.
unemployed now because I cried?
Well, that was our
So I think
process. That was our process during
Yeah.
this play. We all cried together up, and imagine we've all come to this as young men, right? And none of us were like, I ain't crying. I don't know you. Do you know what I mean? Throughout that play and every single process, there were moments where we cried together, we hold each other and we go, let's go, guys. Let's go. Do you know what I mean? And I think that's the
But
core of it.
my question is, Lee,
Yeah.
can we just collapse though? Can we just like even the idea of a notion of there's a way to cry, puts pressure on like remembering that at a moment of vulnerability. Like I remember losing my aunt at 16, and there's she's gone in the hospital. We did the 3 days of visiting. We did the 9 nights together all together, which ends up being a bit of a vibe actually. And then you get to the point of the funeral.
Yeah.
And then her coffin came out of the car. And it's the first time it landed. I even saw her in the home, like embalmed. I saw it. And then something was just about the coffin going into the church. I just broke. And I made a really loud squeal.
Yeah.
And I felt really selfish because it's not my mother. It's like my godmother. It's everyone's favorite aunt. I had the best godparents, just so everyone knows. But like I was so devastated that this beautiful woman, like she was such a warm element in our family. And in many ways, the glue. So seeing her in the box going into the church was the moment, and I wheeled.
Yeah.
Yeah. What's wrong with that?
No, but that's what I'm saying. Like, I would never want to figure out a conscious way of how I should have done that.
No, but I think what you're saying is you cried, you were like, I'm bold in my crying.
yeah.
But I think what a lot of us do is we go, I'm going to hide in a little corner now because now I'm conscious that you guys are seeing me cry and I'm losing part of my manhood doing that.
Yeah,
I know what you're saying. It's like, nah, Be bold in it. Do you know what I mean? I'm
Be
crying
bold.
because I love this
Yeah.
person, and I should be allowed to do that.
Yeah.
I think my question. Oh,
So
sorry.
it's not asking for permission.
Exactly.
Because sometimes when you're proud in how you are being and how you're acting, you don't ask for permission. You just do. And whereas hiding it is the antithesis of that.
Yeah.
It's like it's opposite.
Yeah,
So
yeah.
just what you did at your aunt's funeral was apt.
Yeah.
And whatnot.
I think what I wanted to add about the safe spaces, I mentioned it in the context of where can men go to have those safe spaces, but you mentioned that your partner lives with you,
Yeah,
is
yeah,
in the
yeah.
house with you, is in
Yeah.
the same bed with you,
Yeah.
driving in the same car
yeah, yeah.
perhaps, and you can't hide from your feelings with your partner. And a video that I saw maybe on TikTok, somewhere on social media, was men saying, we can't be vulnerable, can't cry in front of women because they'll hold it against you. Now, I know that because men's vulnerability is something that society, but women in intimate relationships are not used to from men, we don't know how to handle it. So we can't hold your vulnerabilities because it's so rare that we get to see it. It's like this, a gemstone that, that we see and we're like, oh my God, what do I do with this? And very often, if women are cunning or just, not interested in you anymore, don't like you anymore, those vulnerabilities then become a weapon. And I think when we speak about safe spaces for men, it's not just with other men, it's also in the intimate homes. And there are men who would say, I'd rather take those elsewhere, as you said earlier. Like, if I do come with that gemstone to you, that's not my heart, but that's something else that I'm coming with you.
100%.
And it's used against me. I'm scarred. I'm scarred, and I will never be vulnerable and open up again.
People don't understand that part where, like, if you break that trust with a man, it will just be locked away with that particular person.
But it's selfish because men break women's trust all the
That's
time.
true.
But a woman breaks a man's trust once, we will climb up.
Yeah, but it's the
That's
context.
just
Like,
our
as you said, the context of our giving this stone over, is under a lot more pressure.
Yeah, 100%.
Like, a woman can cry and stand in the middle of the street, cry, and people will stop, get off buses, stop cars, and go over and be like, "Are you okay?"
Yeah.
If they see a man doing the exact same thing, he'll be completely ignored. It's like, is he going to lose it and try to kill me?
Yeah, that's
Like,
that's
so
true.
the reality is,
That's
it's
true,
like
yeah.
when men do give it, and I always think whenever you're changing something in terms of societal perception, you've got to know the root signs of something. And if you ignore those, then you will never grow and develop their relationship. And I think there's other examples where women talk about believe black women or believe women. There are elements of you have to really listen and pay attention to the behaviors of people and men around women. And if you hear something a couple of times, you have to pay attention to it. And I feel like for us, that's the exact same thing with our emotion and our crying. We have to be able to do that. Just to basically wrap it up, what would everyone's advice be to other men? And I think anybody living amongst men who are living quite heavily right now, what would you say to them? And obviously, it'd be great for you to close us out and let us know a bit more about the play. We'll start with Franklin and we'll go this way around.
Cool. I guess what I would say is it is okay to express yourself. It is okay to speak about your feelings. It's very important that we get to that place where we can say, look, I'm not okay. And be able to cry freely. Or else we're just going in circles because we see it in society. We see a lot of our young black boys doing things to each other when it could just be a conversation. Do you get what I mean? This what's happening now in society doesn't have to happen if people just got in a room and be like, why are you upset with me? That's it. And then, and have that conversation. So,
Powerful.
yeah.
Mine is just to create your own groups. I think often there are groups like ours that are really highly visible, but actually just get 5 friends together and just say, or even 5 friends, you can get 5 strangers together.
Agree.
But you do need some sort of rules and guidance as to what the space is. Otherwise, it will turn into a football group very quickly. And so it's important just to make sure that you're like, this is the space for like, how are you doing today? Check-ins. And then you'll start to see that it will become successful, and just make sure you look after the people in it.
Yeah.
Mine is two-sided for women who are partnered with men to respect the vulnerable space that they are given and to carry it with as much weight as that man giving you his heart. And then for men to allow us to see that, because that makes us love you and understand you on a deeper level that we ever could by you just providing and protecting for us.
Yeah, my advice is don't bottle things in. Every time I bottle stuff in, I end up trying to harm myself and take myself off the planet or having those thoughts. So don't bottle stuff in. Start talking. Start sharing. Because as soon as I share, I'm always wary of sharing and burdening someone else, and that's probably why I stop myself from sharing.
Yeah.
But I know that the harm that I will cause my family will be way more than the harm I can cause them by sharing. And sometimes that preoccupation and overthinking of trying to figure out what someone else is thinking is never aligned with actually the reality of what's happening. So do talk.
Yeah.
Powerful. Thank you.
Just echoing what everyone said, man. You know, I think for us, understanding that there's nothing new under the sun, right? And the moment that a lot of the time we get into our heads because we believe that no one else is going through this, and this means that we're different or we're weak, or we're all going through it, you know, and opening your mouth and having those kind of conversations and realizing that, you know, your brothers are all going through it too, and maybe this guy's got a method or somebody else is giving you a tip or something, but, you know, keep those conversations going. Yeah, man, let's lift each other up.
Indeed.
Please tell us more about the show. And
Yeah,
where
for
we
black
can get it.
boys who have considered suicide when the hue gets too heavy, is at the Garrick in the West End from the 29th of February this month, man, up until the 4th of May. It is joyous. I call it a black boy fantasia. You know, it's the like you're saying, it's the antithesis, man. It's we're going through stuff, but actually there's so many reasons why we should keep each other up and stay alive. So that's what the play kind of represents.
Powerful.
Well done, man.
So are you going to be like a millionaire? Do I need to order stuff with you? What happens? Like,
Listen, man, I say get the orders in quick. Innit?
yeah, listen, I feel like there's going to be a Netflix deal announced in a couple of months. Just so you know that I don't act, but I can do extra work. Okay, I want to be the right in the kitchen. Like,
I actually do that. So when the Netflix thing comes,
I'm there.
there's a global
have a
deal.
great beard.
Now, all of a sudden, it's going to get a global deal. It's going to be like Idris Elba trying to get hold of him. It's going to be like hard work. Cool, though, innit?
It's all good, man.
Nah, thank you everyone for coming.
God
I really
bless you.
appreciate it.
Yeah,
Thank
well
you.
done.
Yeah.